I'm not going to spend a lot of time up here. I just want to tell the beginning of a story, and you'll hear the rest of the story after I leave. Way back in 2022, kind of early in the year, I got a phone call from somebody who works for the keepers of the circle and said, "What do you do and how can we work together?" And that was the beginning of the story. We formed a relationship, and Bertha is going to explain the rest of that story. Over to you, Bertha.
Miigwech for having me. Patwayan patak in adishnikaz, Nizan adishnikaz, Migazino Dodum, Matachewan de Bunjaba. So my name is Bertha Cormier. I'm the executive director with Keepers of the Circle. And I'm here to give a little bit of a spiel on our Indigenous women-led modular factory that we're building in Northern Ontario. So just some of the challenges that we face just being in Northern Ontario is the geography. Anybody who's lived north of North Bay knows that our winters can get somewhere, sometimes there's a week in the winter where it's minus 45. Winter comes early sometimes in October. I just had a Facebook memory pop up that October 20th in 2020, our ground was covered with snow. And that leads us to the next challenge, which is our seasonal. So most of our northern communities up the coast, a lot of their supplies have to be brought in on winter roads. Last year, that winter road gave them 28 days of hauling. So because climate change is real, that time frame's getting shorter every year. Building capacity. So our women are entering the trades that is mostly a male-dominated trade. So we saw this as a way of making it a safe space for our women to enter that construction trade. But not only the construction, it's the rest of, the electrical, the plumbing, the landscaping, we need a crane to operate to install these homes. So we have one of our women right now apprenticing to be a crane operator. The homes that our communities are faced to live in sometimes don't meet the cultural needs. I was sharing just earlier that Nandita Anishinaabe Nation, who covers 49 communities, did some outreach with about 30 of their communities. And their communities want 4-bedroom homes to allow for that multi-generational living. Mainstream society, we all want our own homes, we all want our own privacy, but the Indigenous culture likes to keep that family connection. It's those ties that keep everybody together. The housing quality in our northern communities, because a lot of our communities are in the flood zones, they flood every year. So once the flood goes through and the houses dry up, then they're dealing with mold. The overcrowding, just the quality of the home. It's not built for the climate that they're living in. And it's the other thing is the whole systemic, barriers that our people face, not being able to even own their own home. So we're hoping with this, one of the goals with this factory is to be able to provide those equitable homes for our people. So our answer to the challenge that we're facing is to establish a matriarchal social enterprise, which is focused on constructing sustainable housing, which is led by women, Indigenous women living in Northern Ontario. It's going to provide jobs. It's going to offer training. They're going to be building the home, so there's going to be a sense of pride. This factory as well, and I'll speak to it a little bit later, will also house a daycare. So it's allowing our Indigenous women to take control of their own destiny. So for the reason we chose the passive modular homes was because I'd mentioned earlier the whole supply of the homes in Northern Ontario it addresses that geographic and the seasonal barriers that our communities face. If you have 28 days of ice road, you could plan to get 100 homes up to a community, and then they could take the rest of the year to build them if they so choose. Working with our industry expert, we co-designed a modular 600-foot square 1-bedroom home for an Indigenous woman. It offers that alternative to the regular houses that many of our folks are offered, you know, the regular homes that don't provide for that healthy environment for them to live in. With these homes, I'm preaching to the choir here, I know, it, you know, supports that local green economy as well. And that, yeah, that's just some of the pictures on that slide where our women actually installing the home in Northern Ontario for our young Indigenous women. One of the other solutions with our modular factory is training Indigenous women. Our focus was on supporting them to take on that leadership role in a trade, like I'd mentioned, that was mostly male-dominated. So it helps empower them to build those leadership skills. So for this home that we built, we sent 6 women that had little to no previous construction experience to our partner, Tooktree here in Baysville. And over a period of 3 months, they built this 600 square foot home. I think it was 32 panels, possibly. And then they took it up north the last week of January of 2023. And if anybody remembers that last week of January, it was minus 45, but with the wind chill, it was like minus 52. And those women persevered and installed the home in 3 days. Then they continued over the summer, and they completed the install of the solar. So this is completely off the grid home. So this young Indigenous woman now has a healthy home to live in, completely off the grid. She doesn't have a hydro bill. She lives in an unorganized township, so there's not even a tax bill. So she's set. These are just more pictures of them. It was so cold that week that they did it, they actually took shifts installing it. So, you know, 2 or 3 would be out there until they got cold, and then the other 3 would come out and 3 would go in to warm up because there's a neighbor next door that offered her house for them. So what we did after that, the first modular home we built, is now we're scaling up. We were successful with some funding, so we're now building a 24,000 square foot factory in Kirkland Lake. 2 of our teams, I think there was 5 on each team, but there's possibly 4 now, are currently down at Tooktree building the panels for the admin building of our new factory. So the experience of our women during, you know, some of the training at Tooktree, we incorporated some smudging and some traditional practices that changed the space, and it was needed for these women during the training. Some of these women are married women, they have children at home. They're leaving their children back at home, coming down to Baysville, staying from Sunday to Friday morning, or Friday at noon, I guess, and then they head back home. So, you know, we also provided an elder 2 days a week. So if there was anything that they felt, you know, triggered them throughout the week, they had somebody totally unbiased that was there for support. We also had a social worker on call for an hour every day, that if the girls needed some help with their mental health, they had those supports as well. So this is just a site plan of our factory. It's going to be on Archer Drive. It's the industrial park in Kirkland Lake. You'll see the factory's the bigger rectangular, and then it's attached with a breezeway to the admin building. It's going to be fully automated, and when it's at its full capacity, we should be able to pump out 100 homes a year, and that'll alter depending on the design. We engaged not just the women that were involved in the training down here at Tooktree, but our women in the organization. So we have about 100 women in the organization that are employed at Keepers. So we did a couple of engagement sessions and you know, asked what's important for them if we do this factory. So to address some of the systemic barriers that the women face, if we have women come into Kirkland Lake to work in the factory or to get trained, they'll need a place to stay. And we all know what the housing crisis is like right now. We have slumlords out there that are charging ridiculous amounts of rent that they can't afford. So our admin building is going to have 6 dormitories on site to provide housing for those that'll require it. If they have younger children, which is another barrier for a lot of our Indigenous women to be able to find that full-time employment, there'll be a daycare on site that's, it'll be first options to our employees, and then it'll be open to the public, and we're actually looking at a 24-hour daycare. It's also going to have a showroom for our salesperson that'll hopefully be busy taking orders, and then it's going to have the kitchen staff area as well. And then they also said they need a cultural room. So today, for instance, we came down to Chook Tree with our training team and with Chook Tree staff, and we held a sharing circle. So you need that safe space to be able to do that. So ours is going to have a cultural room in it that those kind of ceremonies and activities can take place so that everybody feels safe. The advantage of these panels, and as Indigenous people, and many of you probably heard, the 7 grandfather teachings, and we talk often about the 7 generations. So we always thank the 7 generations that came before us, but then in anything we do, we always think of the 7 generations to come. So we chose these panels because of the sustainable, materials used in them, and then the quality of the home that these individuals will be living in is also going to be good for the next 7 generations to come. And we're also local sourcing wood, so we're building partnerships with sustainable forest license holders in Northern Ontario that'll be able to provide the wood to our mill. So the impact of the project is that, we're not only going to increase local jobs in Kirkland Lake, we're also going to be providing that training to them as well. I already mentioned the environmentally sustainable homes. So our people won't have to choose whether they pay their hydro bill or go and get groceries. They should be able to comfortably do both. We can accelerate the construction because it's all indoors. Our extended construction season happens, so like I mentioned, we could ship 100 houses up north. They can build them in the summer, but you have 28 days to get them there. Economic development for Indigenous women. So because of the systemic barriers a lot of our women have faced, this is empowering them to take that leadership role and to be economically stable on their own and not have to stay in a domestic relationship if they choose not to. In the factory, it'll provide safer workplaces. So when you're building these panels, you're not outside dealing with icy patches. I already talked about the 7 generations. Because all of the products are sustainable, we feel that the 7 generations to come will be able to still enjoy those homes. And it'll also be, increase our supply for housing in Northern Ontario as well. So we're looking for partners. So if you're interested, visit our website. We're still building the website, but if you visit keepersofthecircle.com, modular factory, you'll see a little bit. And I think we're still working on the branding and the finer details, but if you're interested, check it out.
We'll take orders at the back.
And that's all I have. Miigwech.